All right. Hello, everyone. Parisa Bania. I am so excited to be with you all today. For those of you who've seen my normal background, or I've got my book in the background and some items from past travels. Today, I am in Hira Hub, which is a co-working space and a business accelerator for women entrepreneurs. I'm so giddy to be here. It's a beautiful space. They've got locations across the country. And today I'm particularly excited to talk about how we make the shift from other people believing we are too much to other people insisting that we are just right, to other people insisting that we be in the room, that other people insist that we belong in the room without requiring of us that we must blend to be in the room. Influence is the strategic deployment of your power. And we all have different forms of power. Some people are physically strong, some people are mentally strong, some people are emotionally strong. We all have different ways in which our power manifests. And if we were in the business of only deploying raw power, then it becomes very easy for other people to tune us out. And this is particularly sensitive as it pertains to the folks that I like to work with, the modern badasses. Modern badasses are folks who like to go 80 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone without checking to see if their people are strapped in for the ride, let alone interested in the destination. They are your change agents. They are your pattern interrupters. They are your visionaries. These are people that have tremendous gifts to create with and for the world. And if they are tuned out, then it doesn't matter how much power they have. It doesn't matter what their intentions are because they've been tuned out. So examples of badasses are Serena Williams, uh, RBG, Steve Jobs, Thomas Edison. We know about these folks. We know about these badasses. I worry about the ones we'll never meet because someone silenced or sidelined them, or they tapped out because they felt like they needed to silence or sideline themselves. If you're really curious about the traits that make up a modern badass, I've got a link that you can go to see the 14 traits that I've identified in my self-styled field of modern badass anthropology. And if you believe you might be a modern badass, or if you believe that you know someone who might be a modern badass, or there's someone on your team who might be that person, I have a 7-question quiz that I have put together. If you navigate to that link, it will ask you 7 questions, and then there will be a report that's delivered to you at the end with some observations, high level invitations of things to consider and whatnot. So let's continue talking about what influence is. I came across this awesome quote from Carla Harris many moons ago, and it's in my book, Modern Badass Tales from the Leadership Front. And what Carla says was when people know what they are playing for, they naturally want to outperform what they are playing for. That is influence in action. When you are leading a team, when you have clients, when you are on a team with your peers, people will outperform what they're playing for as long as they A, know what they're playing for, and B, feel that what they're playing for is a fit for who they are and what's important for them as people. If all we're doing is deploying raw power as badasses, as opposed to strategically deploying our power, which is what influence looks like, we will never get to outperformance. We will just continue to have misunderstandings, conflict, and so on and so forth. And so, this is essentially about your zone of genius. Your zone of genius matters. It is the highest and best use of your time and talent. And so, in my previous life, all I knew was how to deploy raw power. I didn't know I didn't understand influence candidly, and I didn't know how to strategically deploy my own power. So I was always speaking truth to power because it was the right thing to do, but I didn't understand the gift of influence. I was often insistent on showing that I was right as opposed to focusing on how I could have a shared understanding with the folks around me and the folks that I reported into. And so this journey that I'm on, I believe that is available to everyone. And so you deserve to be in the best expression of your genius as well. There is Bullwinkle is a cartoon from way back. I want to say it's in the 60s. There was a running gag in the Bullwinkle cartoons where he would speak to his friend Rocky, which was a squirrel, a flying squirrel. He would say, "Hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of a hat." And then Rocky said again, because this was a long running gag. And so in this particular version of the gag, uh, Bullwinkle reaches into the hat, hoping against hope that he will pull out a rabbit. But what he does is he pulls out a roaring rhinoceros instead. And the punchline to the gag is, "I don't know my own strength." That is precisely what I'm talking about today. Sometimes we don't know our own strength. Sometimes we don't know how our strength or our power lands with other people. And the ability to read the room, the ability to read the needs of the other people in the room is what influence looks like. If you're curious to see the actual cartoon of what I'm talking about, drop me an email, parisa@sixthsensestrategy.com, and I'll send you the YouTube link. It always makes me laugh, and I've seen it a million times over. So my origin story. In my corporate life, I was told that I was too much and the hardest person ever to manage. And so I blithely thought, happily thought that my job in life was just to deliver results, and that means rattling cages and testing limits and being creative and all the things. But when I heard that I was too much, when I heard that I was difficult, when I heard that I was the hardest person to manage, how that landed with me, regardless of the intention of the person saying that, was that I was broken, that I couldn't be coached, that there was no way that I could be repaired as a human being, that I didn't belong, that I was to be pushed outside of the circle, so that I should be sidelined, that I wasn't valued. And, um, every story has three sides, one, the other, and the truth. And for my part, what I see as my responsibility was I didn't fully appreciate the rooms that I was in. I didn't understand the difference between speed and velocity, which is what we'll get into. And more to the point, I didn't understand the gift of influence. And so my fast forward to today is I eventually had the realization that I didn't understand power in and of itself. I didn't understand that me wanting to be right or demonstrating that I was right was one of the most selfish things that I could do. It was so, so selfish. And being influential is probably one of the most empathetic things that I could do. That if I shifted my focus inward to outward, what would that be? I didn't understand why it was for me important for me to crystallize my values for myself, let alone for other people. And I didn't understand the importance of belonging to places aligned with who I was as a person. So when anything that I do today and any work that I do and any conversations I have, I'm very clear about when I am self-oriented, that kills my ability to be empathetic, and how influence is a proof point of empathy. It's like a lagging indicator of empathy, let's say. Um, I am always in alignment with my values, which for me are freedom, truth, justice, creativity, and loyalty. I understand the difference between speed and velocity. And I know now how to deploy power strategically as opposed to in raw form. And so here are some symptoms that you might be in your way. Uh, like me, you might believe that being right and being influential might be the same thing. You might push for change because you're so passionate about something. You see the gift to the world, but you don't clarify the what, the why, whom it serves, why it matters. You pay attention more to how fast you go as opposed to the goal, which is what velocity is. Um, you might be the chief executive of everything. You might believe that it's just better for you to do everything or boss people around instead of invite people in and ask them to share their creativity, ask them to share their vision, ask them to share their gifts. Um, you're in your own way if you don't ask for help. If you want to give off the impression that you have this suit of armor, I have news for you. No one believes it. It's like an oversized fig leaf. No one believes that oversized fig leaf that you're walking around with. You're in your way if you're not key on what your values are and how you might need to be in alignment with them. And if you're described as too blank instead of just right, exactly what we need. I know this is hard. I've been that person in many ways. I still am that person. And I help people like you all the time get out of your own way. Um, so, some explorations. I won't go through this entire list. Curious, how do you block your ability to influence? When might you have had the most leadership challenges? What do you pretend to not know about how you lead? How often do you check to see if your values are aligned with your work? What has been the cost for you when the work that you're doing are misaligned with your values? For me, that was conflict. For me, that was not understanding the people on the other side of the table. And similarly, they didn't understand me either. Um, are you influential or are you loud, even when you might be the most soft spoken person in the room? Remember, RBG was a disruptor. And if you were to have ever heard her speak, uh, she was very soft spoken. So you can actually be this visionary, this change agent, this disruptor, this person who breaks paradigms and be the most soft spoken person in the room. And if you don't have influence, people will still think you're too blank, even again when you're the most soft spoken person in the room. So your values matter. Conflicts often happen when values are misaligned. When we don't clarify what our values are, when we're not curious about other people's values, and we're not clear on how values are complementary, that's where conflict lives. It's not enough to say that we have a business strategy. We have to understand, or a brand strategy. We have to understand the alignment of the business strategy with what the individual and the team values are for us to feel like we all have skin in the game. It's one thing to tell someone what their skin in the game is. It's another thing when someone knows their skin in the game, and it is next level ideal stuff when everyone feels the skin they have in the game. And so let's talk about the difference between speed and velocity. I've mentioned that a couple of times. But speed is just speed. It's just how fast you're going. Velocity, if I was going to take us all the way back to high school physics, velocity is the rate of travel or how fast you're going in a given direction. A lot of times these things are confused, especially if you're a badass. And you fall into a I am right or right is the goal trap when you confuse speed and velocity. If you're going so fast and you're not clarifying the goal, and you believe that other people can read your mind, you are never going to accomplish the goal. Or if you do accomplish the goal, it won't be to the degree that you had wished for. So, when you have speed, you're not articulating the goal, and folks don't know the skin they have in the game. And more importantly, they don't feel the skin they have in the game. They are not inclined to be a support to you. They are not inclined to take a couple of extra steps to say, I've got this. Here's where I can see where it is that you want us to go. Here's everything else that I can add to. No, people won't do that. So once influence is lost, or when you've never had it in the first place even, it takes such a long time to build. Velocity is influence and power in action. Speed is just action. Velocity is what a clearly articulated goal looks like, and velocity is the alignment with individual and team values for the goal. So not only is everyone a hell yes for the adventure, but they're saying, here's what else I can offer to maximize our chances for getting there, and it will be awesome. So here's some food for thought for you. What are some ways in which you can be seen as influential as opposed to right? When was the last time you clearly articulated your values for your own sake, let alone declare them to other people? What actions would you like to be able to take to be better in alignment with your values? So not only do you have a sense of grounding or where you are, but other people understand your content and context. How might you have confused speed and velocity in the past? I mean, I've done it a million times. And if you're a badass or if you're badass adjacent, you may have done it a million times too. And this is where vulnerability steps in, is how can you let people in so that they can work towards a goal with you? In other words, how can you stop being Superman and be Clark Kent? How can you stop being Wonder Woman and be Diana Prince instead? When you admit your vulnerabilities, when you admit you are not good at something, when you admit that you might need help with something, people want to help. They are inclined to help because you are believable. You are showing who you are three-dimensionally instead of presenting this not believable cardboard cutout of your idealized persona. So I am so excited for the launch of my Inconceivable Influence group this fall. And some folks have already reserved their spots, and I'm so honored and delighted to have them join me. Inconceivable Influence is for you if you're a high performer who loves creativity, loves pushing limits, and loves being edgy in service of the good, not in service of being a troll. It's for you if you have the desire to be influential and others sometimes have difficulty to see your good intentions. It's for you if you've been sidelined at any point in time for your attachment to being right instead of channeling your awesome, which is the strategic deployment of your power and leading with influence. I believe in you. If I have been able to shift my story, I know that you can change and shift your story to without changing who you are fundamentally. That's so important. You have the capacity to have an outsized impact on all of us when you learn to create and nurture inconceivable influence. And we'll all be a hell yes for whatever adventure you're inviting us on. So, what are the benefits to the group? Leading with influence, speaking truth to power with power consistently and effectively, such that people listen as opposed to hearing and then deciding to tune you out for whatever it is that you might be saying next. Being fully you. This is so important. One of the things I hear over and over again about the people that I coach, other people say, well, if they were to change, it would be easier to work with them. If they would just blend in, it would be easier to work with them. It is so insulting. It is so reductive. It is so diminishing to tell someone the only way that other people would have merit or value for them is they have to change to be palatable to someone else. This idea of strategic deployment of your power, your influence, is to be seen as you, for other people to understand your intentions without having to change fundamentally who you are to be palatable to them. You will have return on influence. There's ripples of impact, there's return on investment, there is return on influence you have on other people, particularly the folks in the C-suite, senior leadership, the board, whoever it might be in your organization. And so important to me, and it might be valuable to you. I'd venture to argue it would be value to you, is being in community with people just like you. Being in community with people just like you so that you see and you champion other people's gifts. Here's what's at stake for you. Getting better at environmental awareness, reading the room, seeing what your clients might need, seeing what your peers might need, seeing what your teams might need, seeing what the senior leadership might need, your broader community, all of the above. Seeing what they need, meeting them where they are to strategically deploy influence in service of a goal and not in service of demonstrating that you're right. Making confident decisions aligned with your business and leadership values that absolutely boost top line and bottom line numbers. I have any number of case studies that I can share with you about when someone shifted from the insistence on being right to deploying their power strategically, or what influence looks like, changed their business results significantly. And building and sustaining long-term influence with anyone at any level in your organization. Here's a hint of what your experience looks like in the group. I will work with you one-on-one to crystallize what your vision is, what success looks like for you, and also unpack what your blocks might be that would be, let's say, trolls on the path to your success. We'll also explore a Hogan assessment if that's something that you'd like to opt into, so we can crystallize your bright side, your dark side, as well as the stuff on the insides, so that we see how you show up in the world and how other people receive you. You will take informed action. This debrief will allow you to take steps so that other people see your intentions, as opposed to sometimes believing that your intention. And you're bold enough to receive mentoring. So we'll meet 2 times a month for 90 minutes. And not only will there be hot seat coaching for me, but like I said, we're in community with each other and we will sometimes champion each other because that's right. And sometimes we will challenge each other because that is also right and good. So I'm telling you, it's 100% in your hands. The investment isn't so much in the group. You are making an investment in your transformation. You are making an investment for your lifelong influence. You are making an investment for other people to believe, to demand that you belong in the room because you're exactly what we need, that you are just right without having to change who you are fundamentally. If this is something that is palatable to you, if this is something that's intriguing, if you are a hell yes for the adventure, drop me a note. I am 100% happy to have a conversation with you about this. If you're interested in learning more about the program, hop on over to this link, bit.ly/inconceivable influence. You'll see more detail in there and also a way to book time on my calendar for us to be able to connect and learn more. I'm so glad that we had a chance for us to have this conversation today. Like I said, if there are any questions that you might have, please don't hesitate to drop me an email there. If you're curious again about what the 14 traits are of modern badass, please visit that link. It's all there for you to see. And please do take the easy 7-question Modern Badass quiz to see where you might be on the Modern Badass spectrum, and then also get a real-time report as soon as you're done taking the quiz. I am so happy that I had this time to share with you today. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your attention. If there's anything that I can do as a general matter to be helpful to you, please don't hesitate to reach out. Be well, everyone. Take care. Bye.